Girls Last Tour is an anime that I finally was able to sit through and actually complete and finish as of me recording this video. This is an anime that came out back in the fall 2017 season to begin with, and I want to simply talk about it because I've said from a video that I talked about a while back of every anime I was planning to watch that I was going to commit to and finally get to watching. This was definitely up there because, again, a little bit of background as to why I want to watch the show and talk about it is simply because I watched like 5 episodes of the show originally, and then for some reason I dropped it halfway through for reasons I couldn't remember at the time. But I remember I watched this at during 2020 at the pandemic year, so it's pretty scattered for like why I decided to drop it in the first place. But I think the main reason at the time was because I was too focused on other shows that I was interested in watching when I was during the lockdown pandemic era. But this was definitely one of them, and I was committed to wanting to finish this because I was a huge Lucky Stars fan, and I figured, hey, why not give the show a shot? But now that I finally got the chance at the time, I can comfortably say that Girls Last Tour is incredible, and I'm going to talk about why this show is absolutely incredible and is a must-watch show. And like I said, with Girls Last Tour, this anime and the art style, like right off the bat, the fact that this is under White Fox Studios, which again, you don't need to really tell you what White Fox Studios is known for, is really saying something. But the art style of this show is super unique and different and really stood out for an anime that came out back in 2017 and still has a lot of qualities to show for to this day. Again, from the art style and the crazy world that's being explained in Girls Last Tour, this show has everything going for it. Again, you have the fact that this is clearly like the direction of how this show goes, how it depicts certain things, what it's being talked about is really reminiscent of Lucky Stars, a show that I have praised and have loved so much over the years. I think that, like I said, Lucky Stars is one of the most influential shows to come out of the 2007 of that year. And then there's moments where like this show is going to like a musical idol where it's going to like unpredictable musical moments that surprisingly are super good that remind me a little bit of the K-On! Franchise when it was at its peak. So Girls Last Tour had those moments going for it. And what's even more interesting is that when you look up the author that made this Girls Last Tour manga, the author's name is Sukamizu, which I think if for many hardcore manga readers, if you know this person's name, Sukamizu is the same artist that actually gave us Ezoken, a amazing and standout one of a kind show that came out back in 2020 by Science Sorrow Studios of all things, the same studio that gave us Dawn the Dawn of all things. And Ezoken was one of those unique and underrated shows to come out of that 2020 year. And prior to it, Sukamizu's crowning achievement was Girls Last Tour. And Girls Last Tour, like I said, I really think that this show is unique and definitely is genuinely one of a kind because what the show really dives into is like it really just takes a lot of what you see from the Lucky Stars formula, but now it's in like a post-apocalyptic modern type twist and it just doesn't hold back on like what it's trying to ask you, what it's trying to portray. And I really love like where it's heading. The voice acting in the show is incredible. The animation, which I've already been praising way too many times since I started this, is absolutely incredible. The music, the themes of the show are just so really good that every quote, every question that our two main characters are talking about or asking like, in a third person in a sort of way are so good that it leaves you thinking about it, leave you pondering like, huh, I never thought of it that way. So again, the show is pretty simplistic as it gets. It is again from reading the synopsis here. If you're watching me rant about this right now, it is about Chito and Yuri, two girls that essentially are going through this post-apocalyptic world of years into the future where they are now in a desolate era where it feels like they are the only two left on Earth, and there's barely any life in general. There is nothing because a lot of the world at large has been taken over by the amounts of rise of technology, war, etc. And they're now living that world that has happened after all the terrible things that humanity has done. And throughout this whole time, they basically explored the wastelands looking for two things mainly, which is food, shelter, and literally just making sure they have the enough materials and necessities to travel through the wasteland and get through their journey. Where where in this journey they're trying to go for, we don't know. And it really keeps you guessing and wondering like where these two girls are going for, what they're doing. And I gotta say, immediately from the first episode alone, it gets you hooked right away. Where the first episode is mainly about food and getting to know our two main characters and how each of them stand out. With Cheeto being, again, the girl that's just super in the books, but also wants to make sure that everything is appreciative and really like self-reserved at first, but she really is super analytical and really knows what she's talking about. Meanwhile, you have a character like Yuri or Yu, as we see being portrayed throughout the whole show, where she is super outgoing, bombastic. She has an attitude that's the complete polar opposite of Cheeto, but at the same time, she's will do anything and everything to make sure that Cheeto gets to her destination safe and sound without any issues whatsoever. And the character dynamics of the show are just so good for just two characters that again, it doesn't leave me feel really bored. It doesn't make me feel like I'm watching this show out of spite in some sort of degree. Like they really capture these characters so well. And again, they range and talk about topics that are like, hey, if humanity wasn't like this right now, I wonder what humanity was many years ago as they trudge through the wasteland of things, from trying to figure out what music is, to trying to figure out how food was made, how a fish was born, to talking about life and death, which is honestly that 10th episode, I swear, is probably the best episode that this show has to offer, and I absolutely love that. Like it just gives you that really sad question to ask. And then even dives into like AI. Like, bro, this show was also ahead of its time with the whole AI robot stuff because there was an episode which actually includes them interacting with a robot, the last two living robots of a certain facility, and it's pretty surreal to say the least that this was kind of ahead before the whole AI stuff that's been going on as of late. So again, Girls Last Tour, I definitely knew that going into rewatching the show, finishing the show, that this was going to be an amazing show in general. Again, every single thing that happens in the show happens for a reason, and it really keeps making sure that everything that they've been through is enforced and you remember it. Such as the case with one main character that would eventually come across with Kanazawa, who is this map enthusiast, and he is essentially just his main goal for this character is that he simply just wants to travel around the world, make maps so that the world that he's in right now isn't forgotten. And as his final parting before we never see him again is that he gave Yuri and Chito his camera. And that camera actually holds a lot of meaning because it's like, okay, now we're making memories and we're seeing that now these moments can last forever, and that what we have here, what we would bless Kanazawa, is pretty special. There's even a really heartfelt moment when they meet another character with Ishii, where her goal is to essentially just fly and actually and get out of the world that she's in. And as a result, like they go through these trials and tribulations with each other, but there's it's really wholesome. And again, at the end of each episode, it really makes you think and ponder on everything that these characters talk about. So again, I cannot praise the show enough. I think the show is 100% a must watch. This is absolutely incredible. And honestly, I'm going to be honest with you and just make this declaration right now. I've it's no secret that as a result of me watching Girls Last Tour, there is one show that I talked shit on as of late, and that is See You at the Food Court. I think you already know I've shit on the show so much, and honestly, I will actually consider rewatching the show again and maybe re-evaluating the show because, again, maybe there's a good chance I couldn't get into this show when this came out, but maybe if I watch all 6 episodes in one sitting, there's a good chance that I'm actually going to appreciate the show for what it is. Because, again, Girls Last Tour has got me hooked on it for sure. So yeah, overall, absolutely great, incredible show. I am honestly feeling a strong 8 on this thing. It is really good. definitely one of the better shows of this genre to really go in that direction. And as a result, I will make the declaration right here, right now, to end this video that I will rewatch See You Tomorrow at the Food Court and reevaluate how I felt about the show and give the show a second chance. Because considering that this show is starting to get beloved by many people after the show has ended, I think I need to give the show one more shot to really appreciate what it is. So yeah, just want to talk about this a little bit, and I'll see you on the next one. Later.